This is your Daily 5 for Thursday, December 18th, 2025. I've talked before about the fact that I take part in the book club that TWiT.tv does. I think they're doing it quarterly now. And the most recent book club selection is actually a really new book. I didn't know that this book had just been released in September. According to Macmillan, the release date of this book is September 30th, 2025. So this is a very, very new book. So, of course, I'll keep this spoiler-free, although on the book club episodes, we dive into all the plot details. So if you tune into that, you're going to hear everything about what's in the book. The title of the book is The Heist of Hollow London, and the author's name is Eddie Robson or Robeson. It's a British author, I believe, so I'm not sure how pronunciation on last names works sometimes with that, but I'll link to the Macmillan page so you can see all the details yourself. This is a near-future science fiction heist novel. I think that's probably the best way to put it. It concerns it's set in a world, and this is not a spoiler because you get this right off the bat, really. It is set in a world that seems to be some near future based on the fact that technology doesn't seem to be that far advanced from us. But some things have gone wrong. There has been a massive consolidation of corporations. And now there are people who are considered maids and nets, meaning people who are created and people who are naturally born. And if you are a created person, you are in automatic indentured servitude to your owner. And they treat owner, this is basically slavery by any other name. That's what it is. And if the owner has a organ failure or whatever, you can immediately be killed and have your organs harvested. Now, these are not individuals who are created with like an automaton type of personality. These are fully fleshed human beings with individual thoughts, goals, emotions, the whole thing that can just be outright killed by their owners. And that one plot point right there brings up my biggest problem with this book, which I have to admit I'm very conflicted on. And that's that it feels like the author had certain things that they really wanted to cover to in my opinion, overcover in some cases, and other plot points that were just stepping stones to get to the next thing and are underexplained. The maids versus gnats thing is probably the first one you'll get hit with right away. There is no backstory on how this happened. There is no setup to what led up to a world where this type of slavery is widely accepted. And I feel like you needed something to understand how we got from where we are now to there. And I'm not saying slavery hasn't existed in our world. Absolutely it has and does. But this seems widely legally sanctioned everywhere and just accepted. And that you got to give me a little bit of explanation on, and we get basically nothing. In contrast, later on when we get to the heist that the novel is named for, the heist itself is not that complex for the amount of time that is spent on it. And so there was a point where I'm sitting here going, okay, we got it. Keep going. Let's get this thing moving. And then we get to a resolution that feels very abrupt. And so all of that makes it sound like I didn't like the book, but I like a lot of the characters. I like a lot of the character interactions. I think the central kind of idea of the heist and what's going on with it is interesting, if not lingered on for too long. So I can't say I dislike the book, but it's got these just wild shifts where you feel like, okay, we're spending no time on this important thing and way too much time on this unimportant thing. And that is what I think that many people might struggle with, is this kind of imbalance in pacing the story properly, giving us enough narrative here and not enough somewhere else. And that's probably the biggest problem with it. Again, not to an extent where I'd say I didn't enjoy reading it. I did. I had a good time with it. I don't think I would ever read it again. And if someone were to ask me, well, should I read this book? I would have to give quite a detailed, let's say, 5-minute explanation of what I think of it. I can't just say, oh, yeah, that's great. Or, oh, no, that one, no good. You know, a lot of times you can very quickly summarize for people when you know them, whether they'll like a book or not. But with something like this, I really don't know, because it's just going to be very subjective, and I think a lot of it has to do with the pacing of the actual story. So, again, conflicted as far as a recommendation. I wouldn't tell anybody not to read it, but I also don't know that I would just, without any explanation, recommend it to anybody either. So, again, you can choose what to do here. The Heist of Hollow London by Eddie Robson. If you read it, let me know what you think. Later.